You know, you can be upset with Keith Olbermann and with me all you want for attending a meeting at the White House with the president, but if we're going to fight about this, let's at least start with getting the record straight here. Joining us now is Keith Olbermann. Hi, Keith. How are you?
You went in January?
Yeah. You mad?
I didn't go in January.
No, but
got lost in the mail.
I will tell you that when we went this week, there was food. When we went in January, there was just water.
Well, they got their act together.
They got their act because they knew you were coming this time.
I guess that's what it was.
First of all, let me just say, and this is a little bit unprofessional of me to do so, but I apologize for having been looking at the script the entire time I was doing that. Our teleprompter is broken.
Oh,
so
how delightful for you.
It worked okay for you?
Yes. You want to run cartoons the rest of the hour?
No, it just means that I might be doing a lot of the show like this.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Well, after all, we are working with scripts provided by the White House.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, okay, Karl Rove is now saying if we did anything like that, people would go nuts.
When people talk about post-traumatic stress disorder in politics, do you ever feel like they're walking examples of this, like they have forgotten what they did half the time while in the White House? This is exactly what they did. They had, not only did they have these meetings, but as you pointed out correctly, they were much more doctrinaire and much more politically, there were eligibles and ineligibles, and nobody ever crossed from one to the other. They tried to manipulate the news. They paid Armstrong Williams, as you noted. It's just, it is pot and kettle, and it is stunning. And also, basically, conservatives got in there first this time with this president before he actually took office. Yeah. It's just confounding and stupid and silly, and it just looks like another thing that they want to wring their hands about as loudly and as publicly as possible to scare people for no purpose whatsoever.
I think the reason that I'm leading with this is not only did the president address it himself, which I think makes it quite newsworthy, but I do also think that the sort of mainstream take on this fight between the White House and Fox, the mainstream common wisdom is sort of calcifying around the Fox argument that this is unprecedented and that it's somehow unfair and that Fox is being given the short end of the stick in a way that previous administrations have never done anything like this.
Other than the previous administration, and in much greater degree. If we're going to talk about this, as you point out, those last 8 years were attempts to manipulate where they could not completely control. I mean, they controlled Fox News and what went on it. Clearly, I mean, there's no argument about that. And then they went and proceeded to go after us, particularly. Most of this occurred before your show went on the air, but I mean, there were the abuse and the pressure, the behind-the-scenes stuff, never let up. What the Obama people have done, while really kind of cutting through the fog and not trying to be subtle at all, is really kind of just raised an objection, saying, we don't think this is news. They didn't say, hey, Major Garrett, you're not admitted here anymore. Right. Hey, by the way, we're not going to let you do live shots from the White House. You're not going to be on the plane or any of these things. There's no attempt to silence them. There's an attempt to say, you know what, this is dangerous because this is often a way by which nonsense stories get trumped up through that purely political conversation kind of paranoid shows like Glenn Beck and Hannity and O'Reilly. They put out crazy stories or take obscure trivial ones, blow them up to gigantic proportions, and then report the reaction to these stories in what are supposedly straight newscasts. Yeah. And that's stage one of it, and stage two of it is, of course, they then take, if you report, say, on Acorn for 457 consecutive shows, every news organization in America is going to go, well, we didn't think this was any sort of story. Maybe we're wrong. Let's do a story about why we didn't do a story. And suddenly there's an Acorn story on the front page of several leading newspapers. And I think it's a way to sort of bring in crap through the side door, which is a secondary thing besides the obvious stuff that you see every day on Fox.
It's interesting to me that they're not saying they're going to freeze out Fox altogether. They said that they will still make people available to Fox stations. They're not even ruling out making the president available to Fox at some point, but they're just going to treat them as if they're talk radio. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Remember that given that President Bush was happy to invite right-wing talk radio into the White House quite happily.
Non-stop and got them cake and cookies and things. Although the meal was fabulous. We've been authorized to talk about that.
The peach cobbler was
and
spectacular.
And the salmon melted in your mouth,
yes,
kind of.
Very liberal salmon. Yes. The host of MSNBC's Countdown and my pal, thank you for sticking around, Keith. Appreciate it.
Need me to hand you scripts if things go wrong the rest of the way? Okay.
All right.
I'll just sit here for a little while.
All right, the good news is that Dick Cheney is apparently back in fine physical form after his latest round of mysterious surgery.